Without further ado, because I don't want to keep you from your dinner, I'm going to introduce from Audentes Therapeutics, Matthew Patterson.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. I've had an incredible weekend so far, and it made me feel very, very welcome, even though I'm obviously new to the community. But I'm really excited to be here to tell you about myself and this company. And I'll just start off by saying that this has been an incredible weekend. And in my experience, I've had the opportunity to work in the rare diseases for a variety of different indications over time. And one of the most important things that happened to me in my entire career was after about 5 years, I worked for one company for about 5 years in Boston. And I was the junior guy. I didn't get a chance to go to conferences and meetings. They didn't pay for that sort of thing for a guy at my level. And but once I made it to my next company, I was given the opportunity to go to a meeting. And the first meeting I went to was a family meeting just like this. It was a meeting of the MPS families. There's a family of disorders in the lysosomal storage diseases called mucopolysaccharidoses. I found myself sitting next to a couple parents of a child with a disease called MPS II Hunter syndrome, and I was just absolutely overwhelmed with emotion about their passion, their incredible courage with their child, and sitting there learning as much as they can and trying to get to know everything about drug research. And it changed my career forever. At that point, I thought rare disease research was interesting, and I only knew from working in my cubicle at my first job. But after that, it became much more of a passion, and I've been doing it for 20 years now, and I'm really thrilled to be in a new position, a new leadership position with a new company and a new opportunity that I'm happy to tell you about tonight. So, let me start off by explaining the name, Audentes Therapeutics. Audentes comes from the Latin verb audeo, which means to have courage, to have boldness, to have daring. And so I chose that name because I think courage is a theme and a word that makes perfect sense to me when I think about all of you and your children and those that fight these diseases every day. And I like the theme of boldness because that's really what it will take on behalf of everyone, all of you, all the researchers, everyone involved to come up with treatments. So that's where it came from. A secondary reason is because my mom used to teach Latin, and so it's a little bit of a tribute to her, and I just feel terrible guilt that I actually never learned how to speak any Latin. So what are we and where did we come from? Audentes is a new biotech company focused on developing new treatments for rare muscle diseases using gene therapy technology. I'll give you a little bit of the history of it, and I'll just include my own biography so you can get to know me a little bit more. I started my career at Genzyme Corporation. I've worked for 3 companies over the years, all doing drug research for rare diseases. First Genzyme in Boston, another company called BioMarin in California, a company called Amicus Therapeutics in New Jersey. So nearly 20 years of working in a variety of different positions for those companies, and luckily I've been involved in programs that are as early as the work we're talking about today, but also those that have successfully initiated and completed clinical trials and gone on to get approval from the FDA. So I've been able to see the whole spectrum of drug development. When I left my last company, I joined a venture capital firm that invests in healthcare companies as a consultant to help them find opportunities in this space that might be interesting for them to invest in and might be a leadership opportunity for me. So I spent all of last year trying to find interesting research programs that look promising. And during that process, I became interested in gene therapy as a technology. I thought it was really fascinating. It has a long history, but it's had its fits and starts. But in the last year, 3 or 4 years in particular, it's made tremendous advances, and I started seeing that and became excited about its potential application in rare diseases. And it was through my relationship with Barry Byrne, who some of you have met today at the University of Florida, that I learned about his research in Pompe disease, and he also introduced me to Casey, who you all know at the University of Washington. And it was through that I learned something about MTM. And of course, immediately was as excited about the data, the initial data, as you all are. But also I saw a lot of other elements about the program that I thought could make it successful. In particular, that I thought I could get people to give us money to develop it. And a huge part of that was the community. I mean, you're an incredibly well-organized community, incredibly passionate. Research community is all talking, family community is all talking, and I can't tell you how important that is. You are huge partners in getting a successful treatment for a rare disease. So to already have the foundation you built is an incredible part of what we need to be successful. And I worked hard from the beginning to try to get to know the family and the family representatives in the community, starting with Allison and Paul. I've had a chance to get to know the folks at the Myotubular Trust in the United Kingdom, and slowly but surely meeting others, and it's been great to meet all of you here. So with that, I got excited about the new company idea, and managed to spend 3 months putting together a plan for how we might do this, how much money we might need, how long it would take. And it took me all that time, maybe 6 months, to convince the firm I was working for that it was a good idea. Because gene therapy is a field that investors have been really scared of for a while. They just haven't invested in it. MTM is a really rare disease. And so it was a little challenging at first to get them into it. But I finally got them there, and they agreed to co-found the company with me, and I did that in November. They gave me a little bit of money to go try to figure out the plan and to put agreements in place that we would need to be successful as a business. And so I've been doing that. In parallel with that, I've been trying to raise money to get this thing really going, because they just gave me a little bit, nothing that you could really do a program with. And so I'm happy to report and where we are today, and this was like just touch and go, as Aaron and Mark will know, that it wasn't clear to me that I'd be able to be here today in time for the meeting. I was so excited to get here because I've been working hard to get the financing for the company. And so after 6 months and about 100 meetings with 25 different venture capital firms, we were able to successfully raise $30 million to back the company. We announced that last week. So that was $30 million. It is a little bit hard for me to still say it too. I'm incredibly excited. I'm thrilled that we've gotten to this point. There were a lot of times where I wasn't sure it was going to happen, but it's a huge step forward, obviously, and it's a huge validation of the scientific promise that started with Anna and her work that Casey and team have continued to develop, Casey and Anna and Alan and everyone involved, and but also the promise of the entire program and everything that you all bring to the community as well. We started a website as well. You're welcome to visit that. I hope some of you have already seen it. And so that's where we are today. So I promise that every slide won't take 15 minutes. So who are we? So Audentes is going to be a small team to start. I see it as 10 to 15 people with significant experience in the industry doing drug research for rare diseases. These are mostly people I already know that I've collaborated with in the past and are very skilled at what they do. They've worked for a variety of established companies in this space. I think we can achieve our near-term goals with a very focused team. The company's going to be headquartered in San Francisco, although we're going to be collaborating with folks all over the world and organizations of a variety of different types that I'll talk about a little bit more. So our focus, the first two programs the company's going to work on are MTM-1 and Pompe disease. We're not going to talk much about Pompe today, but as I mentioned, Dr. Byrne and his team in particular at Florida have done an incredible job, 10 years, trying to advance gene therapy for Pompe disease as well. Pompe has a lot of similarities to MTM-1. It's different in many ways as well. It's in particular different because there's actually an approved treatment, enzyme replacement therapy. But I think the going sort of feeling is that while that was an important step forward for patients with Pompe, there's a lot more to be done, and we believe that gene therapy can help Pompe patients as well. Like I said, both programs are going to be based on gene therapy, and we've heard a lot about that today. It's an incredible science, and it's been a dream for many years, but we're only here today, and we're only raising $30 million because people like Anna and Casey and Alan and everyone involved in the gene therapy community over the years have been fighting to get the work done with grants and other smaller dollars. It obviously takes longer than you hope, but look what they've done, and this is where we are. Oh, sorry. So, and we will consider other programs over time. We've had enough to do with 2 programs, but I'm really interested in the possibility of adding programs because there's a lot of interesting research in our community. And other muscle diseases in particular, I do think we'll stay focused on those. But there's a lot of interesting research out there, and now that we have a home as a company for this science with really significant resources from our investors. I think it's a potential place for other programs as well. So we're not going to rush into that. We need to stay focused and make sure we advance our first programs as a priority. So what will we do? This is not very detailed, but I'm just going to go through it anyway and offer some thoughts. So create the research and development plan. So the scientists that you've already heard have already started this, and they've already been doing a wonderful job advancing these programs, but we need to expand on that. We need to prepare it for clinical trials in particular. We need to think about what those trials look like, think ahead to what will be needed for approval. And so we're going to build and expand on the existing plan, build and expand on those scientific efforts that are already going on. Establish collaborations with everyone that can help, and that means everyone. There's scientific collaborations that are going to be very important for us. There's collaborations with patient organizations. There's a variety of different contributors who will be important to it. I'm very committed to establishing really strong relationships and to doing so around the world. This is not a U.S. program. It's not a U.S. disease. This is a global disease, and it's a very rare disease, and we're going to look for developing a treatment for all patients with MTM-1 around the world. We're going to communicate with the authorities. Of course, that's an important part of it. There are points in time where we talk to the authorities, we tell them what our plans are, we get their feedback. And we'll do that in our first big meeting, hopefully very soon, get their feedback on the studies we plan to get to clinical trials. Manage and adapt the plan. The plan will change. If we know anything about science and research, it's that things go wrong, unexpected things happen, but things cost more than we thought. But we'll figure it out, but sometimes there's going to be moving sideways rather than forward, but we're going to get there. Pay the bills. It's an important one. That's my job to worry about. One of the most important things I can do is hire talented people smarter than me to actually deal with all the challenges and get the work done. And one of the most important things I can do is hire them, let them do their work, but make sure that I'm always raising money to make sure that we can achieve our goals. And the $30 million, I should say, I estimate today will support the company for about 3 years. So full push on the research, doing everything we need to do to get this into clinical trials for the next 3 years, which is great. Stay focused and passionate. This is what this team will do. It's not going to be, we're not going to be doing a lot of other stuff. We're going to be doing just this. It's going to be our focus and our goal and our passion. And I assure you that people that are going to be hired are that type of person. And we're always going to remember who we're working for. And you can bet that other people at Audentes will be at this meeting next time it's held because they have to be a part of this community. And of course, our goal is to get a safe, effective treatment to patients as soon as we can. I mentioned collaborations. These are the initial scientific collaborators that we're working with. Everyone knows, Alan in Boston, Casey's at UW, the Florida team, Mike at Wisconsin. Genathon was the foundation of this work, and Anna in particular is who got us started. And we're now very close to finishing our plan to work together with Genathon. I'm committed to that. It's an incredible organization. Genathon has been doing gene therapy research for rare diseases for more than a decade, at a time when very few people were able or willing to do it, and it's a really unique and incredible place. So we're looking forward to working with Anna and Genathon. Patient organizations, please don't get upset with me if your organization or another one that you're passionate about is not up here yet. I'm working to get to know all of them and all of you and everyone involved. These are the groups that I've had the good fortune of talking to so far and talking about how we can work together. There's going to be more, especially others around the world. I hope to go to a lot of different countries and talk to people in the community, and if they're not organized now, help them get organized. So just a high-level overview, and then I'm done of what's next. So this has been the big question all along that everyone's had all day is when can we get to clinical trials? These data are very promising. What's next? And like the other speakers, I can't overpromise you. But I can tell you that we're going to put together the best possible plan, and we're going to go as fast as we can. And we're going to do a lot of things in parallel. So manufacturing activities, people all talk about clinical trials as this incredibly expensive and complex part of the program, and it is, absolutely. Don't underestimate manufacturing as a challenge. It's a huge challenge for the types of products that Audentes is developing, also Valerion. It's a big part of what we do. In fact, it'll be more expensive than doing the trials. Manufacturing is more expensive. So it's a huge deal. That's why we spend so much time focused on it. But it's happening now. It'll continue as we go on. The dog studies you've seen with Casey, wonderful results so far. We have to build on that. There's systemic dosing results coming soon, but we're going to have to do more of that. In particular, we have to make the version of the drug that is going to go into patients. Right? So all the work that we've seen, all of the mouse work from Anna was with the mouse gene, dog work's been with the dog gene. Now we need to make the human gene product. It's basically the same product. We're going to put the human gene in there and get that tested and achieve all the safety data that we need for FDA to allow us to go into patients. So the dog studies will continue, and we'll switch them to the human product. We'll do other animal safety studies. Exactly what those look like, we'll see after we talk to FDA, which is down here. Non-treatment studies, you're all participating. Natural history efforts, other things going on. Deb talked about it earlier. There's a lot of really important data to be collected before we can do this successfully. We want this to be in as few trials as possible, as small a trial as possible, and as fast a trial as possible. And the only way that works is if we work hard before it starts, and we design a trial that is really smart and robust, and that when we get the great data and we're here, FDA says, yes, we will approve that drug. So we're going to work hard on non-treatment studies. We'll do our very best to collaborate with everyone else in the community. It's a work in progress. I'm still getting to know all the protocols that are happening and what role we can play to be a part of that. There may be some things that we want to do on our own, and we'll ask you to help us with that. We'll keep talking about that as time goes by. FDA meetings, clinical trial applications. Of course, you have to file for approval to do a trial in the US and individual countries in Europe. And like I said, it's going to be a global plan. In fact, if I envision a trial of maybe a small, even 10 patients, in 10 patients in this disease we'll do a trial, I think we probably opened as many as 6 to 8 centers across the US and Europe to find those patients. And we need to figure out where to put those and how to make those as convenient as possible. They have to be qualified centers, of course, but they have to also be places where we can find patients. And then the clinical trial itself. The exact design of the trial, things that we're going to measure, it's all a work in progress. But you can bet we're working very hard on that, and we'll continue to do so. And we'll talk to FDA and get their feedback, and then make some modifications as we need to give it the best chance for success. As a company, you're always going to get this message from me. I believe it very strongly that we're committed to clear, honest, regular communication and to constantly learning from patients and families. I've come to appreciate this very clearly over time, and it's really interesting to me to sometimes run into people who work in the drug field and just never meet a family, even in the rare diseases. Certainly outside the rare diseases, people very, very rarely get to really know who they're trying to help. But in the rare diseases in particular, it's incredibly important. It's incredibly important to me, and you'll always see that illustrated in all the work that our company does. And if you don't think it's going well, I want to hear about it. And right now I'm the only employee, and so you saw my email and the press release. You can email me. Believe me, I've gotten quite a few in the last week, but I'd love to hear from you. I should say, by the way, before I wrap up, that of the 10 to 15 employees I projected, I'm happy to say that exactly 48 hours after the financing was approved, I made my first 3 offers. So I didn't take long. And just yesterday, I got 2 yeses. So the Audentes team has tripled this weekend. No one's happier about that than yours truly, I assure you. So those people will be coming on board, and I look forward to introducing you to them as we go forward. So. With that, I'd like to thank you again for a wonderful weekend. I'm happy to take questions now, happy to take them offline, because sometimes it's scary to ask questions in front of this many people. And I'd love the opportunity, if I haven't met you already, to please meet you before I take off tomorrow. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Matt. Before he sits down, are there any burning questions? We have one over here.
Is there a plan for how you'll update the community or the public as things progress, like press releases, a newsletter, etc.?
Yes, there will be press releases, but those those won't happen, at the same frequency maybe that will be necessary to make sure we're talking frequently enough. So we'll need other vehicles to do that. Newsletters have always been great, in my opinion, as a tool. So it's a work in progress, but the answer is yes, we will come up with something. I don't know exactly what it is yet, and it's frankly something that I'm going to want to bounce off of the leadership and the patient community. When I think about it, I think of the primary people that I want to interact with to get to all of you will be those folks that have started organizations that already have an effective way to communicate to all of you. And if that's how you want to receive information, great, you'll get it through them. If you want to hear directly from me, that's fine. You know, when that happens, you need to tell me that it's okay to contact you directly, but we do that all the time and figure that out, how to do that, so that's easy. I'm happy to report that of the 2 people that I just hired, one of them is a head of patient advocacy and medical affairs, which I'm thrilled about. She's a woman who works at an existing company now and is a nurse by training, wonderful, and she's going to be the primary liaison between the company and all of you to ensure that we always have constant good communication. I'm sure will have a lot of good ideas on that. But that hire is a good example of the kind of company we're trying to be, because a lot of venture capital investors say, why are you hiring that person? Hire, science guru, hire medical guru, let's do the experiments. And of course we're going to do that, but having someone in that role is critical. So I'm proud to say that she's our first employee, second. Anyone else? Please come find me afterward. Hopefully my boring monotone voice didn't put everyone to sleep immediately. I've been working on it.
All right, thank you, Matt. Did you say you haven't gotten enough emails yet? You want more? So just send them an email.